I never pictured myself as the guy with a secret life. For 7 years, I balanced being Sidney the loving husband and Sidney the CIA operative with a deadly past as a Marine sniper. I kept those worlds apart to protect Amanda, the woman I thought was the love of my life. Marriage is about trust, right? But lately, something felt off. The late-night calls, mysterious weekends away, and that faint scent of cologne that wasn't mine. I ignored the warning signs. My training screamed at me to notice. Then one night, I heard her voice in the darkness. I wish I never did. Let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe to hear how I discovered my wife was plotting to kill me and what I did to the team she sent to finish the job. The weight of my past sits heavy even now. 3 tours in Afghanistan as a Marine sniper left me with skills most civilians would find terrifying. I still remember my final mission, the one that earned me both a Purple Heart and the attention of the CIA. Our squad was ambushed near Kandahar, pinned down by insurgent fire with 2 men critically wounded. While everyone focused on the obvious threat, I spotted the real danger. A hidden sniper in a building 800 yards away. One shot, that was all it took. The bullet traveled for nearly a second before finding its mark. The official report said it saved 12 American lives. 2 months later, while still recovering from shrapnel wounds, a man named Jack Thompson approached me with an offer. The CIA needed someone with my unique skill set, someone who could make impossible decisions under pressure. I accepted partially because I believed in the mission, but mostly because civilian life terrified me more than combat ever did. For my own safety and the security of operations, I created a cover identity. Sidney Marshall, security consultant for private corporations. It explained the travel, the occasional injuries, and the nightmares that still woke me in cold sweats. No one knew the truth, not my sister Natalie, not my few friends, and certainly not the woman who would become my wife. I met Amanda at a coffee shop in Arlington. I was between assignments catching up on sleep and paperwork when she literally bumped into me, spilling her latte across my laptop. Her embarrassment seemed so genuine, her smile so disarming. She was beautiful in an approachable way. Warm brown eyes, honey blonde hair, usually tied in a practical ponytail, and a laugh that made everyone around her smile. Our courtship happened faster than I would have normally allowed. She was a pharmaceutical sales representative traveling almost as much as I did. We bonded over airport horror stories and shared a love for old movies and quiet weekends. Within 6 months, I proposed. Within 8, we were married in a small ceremony with just a handful of guests. I bought us a beautiful colonial-style house in suburban Virginia, close enough to Langley for my real work, but far enough away to maintain my cover. I converted the basement into my home office, complete with a secure room hidden behind a false wall, where I kept my weapons and classified materials. Amanda never questioned why I needed such privacy for selling security systems to corporations. The first 3 years were everything I thought I wanted. She decorated our home with photos from our travels, cooked elaborate meals when our schedules aligned, and never pushed too hard when I returned from business trips quiet and withdrawn. The only shadow on our happiness was our inability to have children. After 2 years of trying, doctors told us the shrapnel wounds from Afghanistan had likely left me with damage that made conception difficult. Amanda seemed devastated but supportive, suggesting we take time before considering alternatives. Looking back, I should have seen the first warning signs about 8 months ago. Amanda started making new friends she never introduced me to. Her phone became a jealously guarded possession, always face down and password protected. Her sales trips grew more frequent, often extended at the last minute for client emergencies. The trained operative in me noticed the patterns. The husband in me made excuses. She was working harder for a promotion. She was protecting client information. She was giving me space to deal with my own stressful job. Then came the receipts. A dinner for 2 at a restaurant in Philadelphia when she was supposedly in Boston. A hotel charge in Richmond on a weekend she told me she was visiting her sister in Connecticut. The faint smell of unfamiliar cologne on her clothes. Something spicy and distinctly European. My training finally overrode my heart. I began paying closer attention, cataloging discrepancies, and preparing for the possibility that my marriage was not what it seemed. I just never imagined how right I was. Intelligence work teaches you patience above all else. Rushing leads to mistakes, and mistakes get people killed. So when I decided to investigate my wife, I approached it with the same methodical precision I applied to operations in Kabul or Kiev. I told Amanda I had a week-long security consultation in Dallas. In reality, I drove to a motel 30 minutes away and set up surveillance equipment in our home while she was at work. Nothing elaborate, small cameras in the living room kitchen, and yes, our bedroom, audio receivers in key locations. I hated myself for it, but something in my gut told me this was necessary. The first night revealed nothing unusual. Amanda came home, ordered Chinese food, watched 2 episodes of a baking show, and went to bed early. She called me around 9, asked about my day, told me she missed me. The conversation felt normal, genuine even. I almost packed up my equipment that night, ashamed of my suspicions. As I watched her through the camera, feed's memories flooded back. Our honeymoon in Maui, dancing in the rain on our 3rd anniversary, the way she brought me coffee every morning before leaving for work. Had I imagined the problems? Was I projecting the paranoia from my work into my marriage? The second night changed everything. Amanda arrived home at 7, but instead of settling in, she spent an hour meticulously preparing herself. Hair styled, makeup, refreshed lingerie I had never seen before. At 8:30, the doorbell rang. The man who entered our home was tall, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair and a confident stride. She greeted him with a passionate kiss that knocked the air from my lungs as I watched. I recognized him immediately. Dmitry Karev. Russian intelligence suspected involvement in 3 assassinations on European soil. I had a briefing on him just last year. My wife was embracing a known foreign operative in our living room, leading him upstairs to our bed. Professional training kept me from doing anything stupid. I watched in silent agony as they disappeared into the bedroom, forcing myself to focus on gathering intelligence rather than the personal betrayal unfolding. I turned off the video feed, but kept the audio recording. Evidence would be needed. 2 hours later, they moved to the kitchen for wine. Their conversation seemed casual until Amanda received a phone call just after midnight. She stepped onto the back porch, speaking in hushed tones. And then, to my further shock, she switched to fluent Russian, a language she had claimed not to know beyond a few tourist phrases I had taught her. I will never forget what she said. Yes. Everything is proceeding as planned. The idiot suspects nothing. Send your team tomorrow evening. 10 operatives should be sufficient. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong. I have confirmed he has the Taipei files in his home office. We will extract them before elimination. The person on the other end spoke briefly. Amanda laughed softly before responding, "Baby, this fool has no idea who he married. 7 years waiting for him to bring home something worthwhile, but these files make it all worthwhile. I will see you at the extraction point tomorrow night." My world collapsed in that moment. The woman I had loved, shared my life with, was not just having an affair. She was a foreign agent who had married me to spy on my work. And now she planned to have me killed. As she returned inside to Karev, they discussed the operation further. 10 operatives would enter our home the following night. They would extract whatever these Taipei files were, then kill me, staging it as a home invasion gone violent. Amanda would play the grieving widow, complete with an airtight alibi at her sister's house. I sat in my motel room, mind racing, as I processed the double betrayal. My training kicked in, pushing aside the emotional devastation to focus on survival and counterintelligence. I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. By dawn, I had accessed CIA databases remotely and discovered the sickening truth. Amanda Collins had died at age 7 in a car accident in Pennsylvania. My wife had stolen her identity. Facial recognition software matched her to several surveillance photos of suspected Russian assets, though never with enough clarity for a positive identification. Until now, our entire marriage had been a cover operation. 7 years of patience waiting for me to bring home something valuable enough to justify her extraction. The Taipei files they mentioned, likely referred to an intelligence package on Chinese military capabilities I had transported last month. Documents I had been authorized to work on at home during a security system upgrade at Langley. As the sun rose, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I would not be the one dying tonight. Betrayal has a way of clarifying priorities. By 8 that morning, I had contacted Jack Thompson, my handler, through our emergency protocols. Within an hour, I was sitting in a secure room at CIA headquarters, surrounded by counterintelligence specialists and tactical planners. "Jesus Christ, Sidney," Jack said, his normally composed face pale with shock. "7 years as your wife. That is deep cover dedication." "Focus on the immediate threat," I replied, my voice steady, despite the hurricane inside me. "They are making their move tonight. Hoo-hoo. 10 operatives, plus Amanda, and possibly Karev." The team worked quickly, formulating a strategy that would not only protect me, but potentially roll up a significant Russian intelligence cell. The Taipei files became our bait. The actual documents secured with altered copies left in my home office safe. "We need to let them think the operation is proceeding," the counterintelligence director said. "If we move too soon, we risk losing the bigger fish." I nodded, the professional in me understanding the logic, even as the husband in me wanted to confront Amanda immediately. "I need to return home and act normally until we're ready." Walking into our house that afternoon felt surreal. Everything looked exactly the same. The photos of us smiling on the mantel, her gardening magazines on the coffee table, the grocery list, in her handwriting, on the refrigerator. But nothing was the same. Nothing would ever be the same. I called Amanda from our kitchen. "Hey, just checking in. Might finish up early here. Could be home by midnight." Her voice was perfectly normal, concerned even. "Oh honey, that is a shame. I promised Kathy I would help her through her breakup. I am staying at her place tonight. Will you be okay on your own, Kathy, her fictional alibi?" I nearly laughed at the performance. "No problem," I assured her. "Just order some pizza and crash. Been a long week." "I love you," she said, the words like acid in my ears. "Love you too," I replied, amazed at how easily the lie came to my lips. After the call, I placed the doctored Taipei files in my home office safe, making sure they would be found. Then I left a hidden note where only Amanda would look. A small slip of paper in her jewelry box that read, "Storage Unit Emergency Cache. Lock combination 1624332." The note directed her to an abandoned warehouse, where we would be waiting. By 7 that evening, I was positioned with a tactical team at the warehouse. Another team watched my home, ready to follow Amanda and her accomplices when they moved. Jack stayed with me, unusually present for an operation rather than managing from headquarters. "You holding up?" he asked as we waited in the darkness. "I will do my job," I answered, checking my weapon for the 4th time. "That is not what I asked." I looked at him. This man who had recruited me, trained me, become the closest thing to a friend my secretive life allowed. 7 years, Jack. 7 years of living a lie with someone I thought loved me. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Channel it. Use it, but do not let it control you." At 9:17, surveillance reported movement. Amanda had arrived home with Karev and 3 others. They disabled the security system I had purposely left active and began searching the house. Within 20 minutes, they found the files. Instead of leaving, however, they made themselves comfortable. Waiting for me to return, I realized. Amanda made a call, presumably to the remaining team members. Then she and the others headed toward their vehicles. "They are moving," came the report through our earpieces. Target and 4 others heading toward the warehouse location. I positioned myself in the shadows, watching the entrance. When headlights swept across the abandoned loading dock 30 minutes later, I felt an eerie calm descend. This was just another operation now. The fact that my wife was the target was irrelevant. They entered cautiously, tactically sound. 2 men first, then Karev, followed by Amanda and another operative. 5 more entered through a side door moments later. 10 total, just as she had said on the phone. They spread through the warehouse, weapons drawn, communicating through hand signals. I watched through night vision as Amanda moved to the storage locker mentioned in my note. She tried the combination, frowning when it failed. That was the signal for our team. Lights flooded the warehouse. "Federal agents, drop your weapons," chaos erupted. 2 operatives immediately opened fire while others dove for cover. Our team responded with precision, taking down 3 hostiles in the first exchange. I tracked Amanda through the melee, watching as she ducked behind a concrete pillar, drawing a pistol from her ankle holster. Gunfire echoed through the cavernous space. I moved through the shadows, closing in on my wife of 7 years. When I finally stepped into view 10 feet from her position, her eyes widened in shock. "Hello, Amanda," I said quietly, my weapon trained on her center mass. "Or whatever your real name is." "Sidney," she replied, recovering quickly. "Thank God you are here. These men, they broke into our home. I followed them to stop them." Even now maintaining her cover, I had to admire the commitment. "You can drop the act," I said. "I heard your call last night. Every word of it. Including the part about making my death look like a robbery gone wrong." Her expression hardened, the mask of loving wife falling away to reveal the cold operative beneath. "How long have you known long enough to prepare this welcome party for your friends?" Around us, the gunfire was subsiding as the CIA team gained control. Karev lay wounded nearby, glaring at me with undisguised hatred. "You have no idea who you are dealing with," Amanda said, her accent shifting subtly towards Slavic tones. "Actually, I do. Russian intelligence. 7-year deep cover operation targeting a CIA operative. That would be me, by the way. The husband you have been planning to kill." Her eyes narrowed. "You CIA." For the first time, genuine surprise crossed her face. "Impossible. We vetted you completely. Security consultant, with military background. Seems we both had our secrets," I replied, as Jack and 2 tactical team members approached from behind her. She lunged, then bringing her weapon up with the speed of a trained operative. I fired first, the bullet striking her shoulder rather than the kill shot my training dictated. She crumpled, the gun clattering away. As the team secured her, she looked up at me, blood seeping through her fingers pressed against the wound. "You could have killed me." "Yes," I acknowledged, "but that would have been too easy." As they led her away, she called back, "You never loved me." "Not really. You kept half your life hidden." The irony was almost comical. "Goodbye, Amanda. Or whoever you are." Jack approached as the medics treated the wounded, and our team secured the prisoners. That was personal for her at the end. Not professional. I watched the ambulance doors close on the woman I had once vowed to love forever. Maybe. Or, she is still playing a role. The warehouse fell silent as the last of the teams departed. I stood alone, surrounded by the wreckage of both an operation and my marriage. "Let's go," Jack said quietly. "Nothing more to do here." I nodded, holstering my weapon. Nothing at all. The weeks following the warehouse operation passed in a haze. Our home became a crime scene, yielding hidden surveillance equipment in nearly every room. I moved to a sterile CIA apartment surrounded by bland furniture and bare walls. At night, nightmares blended Afghanistan firefights with images of Amanda standing over me with a knife, her face transforming between loving wife and cold killer. The official debriefing was clinical and thorough. Amanda's real name was Yelena Petrova, a highly trained SVR officer who had been placed in the United States 12 years earlier to establish cover. Our chance meeting had been meticulously planned after I was identified as a potential intelligence source. Everything had been calculated. From spilling coffee on me at that cafe to our whirlwind romance. Perhaps most painful was learning that our inability to conceive had nothing to do with my war injuries. Medical examination revealed she had been using a contraceptive implant the entire time, hidden where I would never detect it. Even that most intimate pain had been manufactured. For 3 weeks I functioned on autopilot. I provided information, reviewed files, identified other potential compromises. I was the perfect operative during the day. At night alone in that sterile apartment, I would sometimes find myself talking to Amanda as if she were there, asking when exactly the woman I loved had disappeared. Had she ever existed at all? The investigation revealed the extent of her espionage. 7 operations potentially compromised. 2 assets possibly identified to Russian intelligence. Hundreds of photographs of classified materials I had inadvertently exposed at home. "You cannot blame yourself," Jack told me during a private conversation in his office. "She was one of the best they had. The fact that you caught her at all is remarkable." "I should have seen it sooner," I replied. "The signs were there. We see what we want to see with the people we love," he said, surprising me with this moment of personal wisdom from my usually stoic handler. 1 month after the arrest, I requested extended leave from the CIA. Jack approved it without question. "What will you do?" he asked, as I prepared to leave his office. "Rebuild," I answered simply. The first step was contacting my sister Natalie. Over the years I had maintained minimal contact, partly to protect her from my dangerous life, and partly because Amanda had subtly discouraged family connections. Now I understood why. Natalie welcomed me with open arms, despite years of distance. "I always knew something was off about her," she said, as we sat in her kitchen in Oregon. "Could never put my finger on it, but she worked too hard to keep you away from family." Slowly, I began to piece together a new life. I sold the house, unable to walk through those rooms without seeing ghosts of false memories. I found a small cabin near a lake in western Maryland, remote enough for privacy, but close enough to civilization for comfort. The CIA arranged specialized therapy, with a counselor cleared for work with intelligence officers. Dr. Winters helped me understand that my operational instincts had been sound. I had eventually detected the deception. It was my emotional attachment that had delayed recognition of the threat. "The compartmentalization that makes you effective in the field worked against you at home," she explained during one session. "You kept your suspicious, analytical self separate from your trusting, loving self. That created a blind spot." 6 months after the warehouse confrontation, I began working part-time with the CIA again, but in a new capacity. I helped train new officers about emotional manipulation and counterintelligence. My personal experience became a powerful teaching tool, though I kept the details vague, presenting it as a case study rather than autobiography. I found unexpected purpose in volunteer work with combat veterans. Men and women who understood loss, betrayal, and the struggle to build something new from the wreckage. Through helping them, I began to help myself. Jack Thompson surprisingly became a true friend during this period. He would visit the cabin occasionally, bringing expensive scotch and terrible jokes. During one such evening, as we sat on the dock watching the sunset, he asked, "Do you ever regret not taking the kill shot?" I considered the question carefully. No. Killing her would have been justified, but it would have changed nothing about the past. This way, she faces justice. And I can live, knowing I did not let her make me into something I am not. He nodded thoughtfully. "For what it is worth, I think you are stronger than any of us realized." A year after my world collapsed, I met someone. Kate ran the local bookstore in the small town near my cabin. Smart, funny, with no patience for pretense. Our conversation began with an argument about Russian literature, appropriately enough. When she recommended a novel I particularly disliked, I could not help smiling at the irony. On our third date, I made a decision. I told her what I did for a living. Not everything. There were still classified aspects of my work, but enough that she understood the risks involved. Enough that I would never again live a complete lie with someone I cared about. "That explains why you keep checking the exits and studying everyone who walks into the restaurant," she said with a small smile. "Does it bother you?" I asked. She considered this. The danger? A little. The honesty? Not at all. We are taking things slowly. Trust must be earned and verified, a lesson I learned at tremendous cost. But for the first time since everything fell apart, I find myself looking forward rather than back. The pain has not disappeared, but it has transformed into something useful. Wisdom, perspective, resilience. I still work for the CIA, still serve my country, but with clearer boundaries between my professional and personal lives. The greatest intelligence operation I have discovered is learning to be authentically yourself with the people who matter. So what did I learn from loving a spy who was sent to destroy me? Trust your instincts even when your heart argues otherwise. Verify what matters. And remember that sometimes the most dangerous covers are the ones we create for ourselves when we pretend to be less than we are to make others comfortable. What about you? Have you ever ignored red flags in a relationship because you wanted to believe the best about someone? Leave a comment below, sharing your experience. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more true accounts from those of us who have lived in the shadows. Share this video with someone who might need to trust their gut instincts more. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the most important intelligence you can gather is the truth about yourself.